Very good. Letty, maybe you could ask the question you just posed again.
My question was, in terms of sanctuary, you have the president-elect saying that on day one, he's going to declare a state of emergency and use federal troops. My question is, at what point can individual states declare themselves sanctuary states, and can cities declare themselves sanctuary cities? How strong does sanctuary apply, and what is the hierarchy of whose sanctuariness trumps who?
So I am definitely not the expert on that. And I think there's a lot of people out there that have that question. I kind of think we're going to have to wait and see. But generally, just, you know, kind of what's going on with the landscape here. There are trainings by the New York Immigration Coalition. There was one last Saturday in Syracuse, and others are coming up about how to help people be safe. So that is refugees, migrants, humanitarian parolees, those with temporary protected status. So those are the folks that we work with. And so that's sort of what we've been focusing on, helping people make safety plans, having learned from the last time this happened, and maybe some of you witnessed some of what happened last time, but there will be removals, I think, that happen quickly, and there could be kids that are abandoned here, so they may have status, their parents will not. So we're focusing on helping those families and really all families develop safety plans, what to do if.
Can you say the name of that organization again that did the training?
New York Immigration Coalition. You can go on their website. They have lots of things online. We also have pro bono immigration attorneys that work with us, and we are consulting with them, and they will be having informational sessions here, primarily for our clients, but we'll talk to them about if any of the community's interested, but just, you know, kind of what to expect. And again, last time, you know, Trump was president, there, you know, he paused the refugee resettlement program for 6 months. He had a ban of refugees from Muslim countries. He did a lot of other kind of executive orders to just stop the refugee resettlement program. And his administration spent 4 years dismantling it, both overseas and in this country. And so I think that, you know, there has always been in this country until this administration bipartisan support of the refugee resettlement program. And I think that that is one thing that we should continue to advocate for, and also to keep people that have come here with that status safe. Humanitarian parolee, I've just heard, is that status is going to be, and this is where there's a lot of questions and concerns, canceled. They're going to cancel humanitarian parolee status. That's how Ukrainians have come here recently, and how Afghans have come here. There's also Cubans and Haitians and some other folks that have it. So right now we're trying to ask our federal partners what that means. What we presume it means is that going forward, there will no longer be humanitarian parolee status. So people will not be brought into the country with this status. We don't know what it means to literally the hundreds and hundreds of folks that are here in our community with humanitarian parolee status that are going to need to renew it. Our offices are being kind of flooded now with people rushing in, fearful of what's coming with the next administration, trying to renew their humanitarian parolee status because it is timing out. It's only a two-year status. So there's lots of questions and confusion about that we're working on. There's just, I mean, there's just so much uncertainty. There's been lots of, I think, bombastic statements made by this administration about what they're going to do, but there's also questions about, well, what can actually happen? And what New York State role is going to be, or what any other state that doesn't necessarily agree with these federal policies, I have no idea what they're going to be able to do or not do. So our focus is really just trying to keep our community safe. We're really communicating with law enforcement and other folks, and I would encourage any of you, if you touch those organizations in any way, you know, any of the police force, just anybody, I think the message should be, let's just keep everybody safe. Let's not be drawn into, you know, the politics of otherness. Let's try and encourage everybody to see the human being in front of them, because I think there's going to be lots of horrible things said. I think social media is going to be filled with lots of propaganda. And I think as a community, we just have to demand that we all behave humanely. And really, that's my ask going forward, is that we don't devolve into some sort, you know, I don't want to see something like, you know, posses going out to find folks that someone might think don't have status. There are a lot of folks with status that work in our agricultural industries and that work in other businesses that they have legal status here. And they're very fearful right now. And I frankly am fearful for them. So anything we can do to encourage everyone around us to just keep a level head and to, you know, continue to recognize the grace and dignity in every human being.
Shelley, a couple of people have questions for you. Sam
Sure.
Pendergast.
Yeah, you've touched on this, but I was going to ask what populations that we work with at the center are most at risk. I know Miguel has people waiting for asylum hearings also, right?
Yeah, so Miguel works with migrants and asylum seekers, and, you know, folks that have come into the country, they have, DHS, Department of Homeland Security, they typically have a notice to appear, and they are here to seek asylum, a lot of his clients. So yeah, those folks are very much at risk. So we're doing, you know, they'll be the folks that we really focus on safety planning and things like that. The other folks are humanitarian parolees. They have been brought in by our government, have been invited into the country, and their status is temporary. So what's going to happen when the next administration says humanitarian parole is not a thing? We don't recognize that, or we're not doing that. So we're working with immigration attorneys to answer that question. Mm-hmm. Nobody seems really sure. We have Afghans and Ukrainians in high numbers of that have the humanitarian parole status. Some of them changed their status when the adjustment period came up to temporary protected status, which is also not going to really offer them, I don't think, much protection. So we do have some Haitian folks here with temporary protected status. I think that they are, I'm worried about them a little bit. Refugees are supposed to be, you know, their status is forever. They get here, they can adjust to a green card 1 year post-arrival and citizenship about 5 years post-arrival. So they should be okay. It's, again, there's just been some rhetoric that gives one pause. I try not to focus too much on that. I do think last time there was a ton of legal challenges. We saw legal challenges to almost every executive order last time. I think you will see that again, but I also think that this administration learned from last time. So they will be much more savvy about how to put things in place that are harder to fight.
Lee, you have a question?
Yeah, a comment and a question. One, thanks, Shelley. I really appreciate your call for calmness and reasonable response to what we know, and your candidness about the fact that we don't know, and that's what's driving a lot of fear, and that's by design from leaders that want power. My question is, given that we don't know a lot, what might someone like myself or those of us that don't have migrant or immigrant populations close, well, that we're in close proximity to, but want to be involved, how can we best prepare ourselves? Would you recommend educating ourselves? Would you recommend giving? You talked about advocating. I'm wondering if there are certain avenues for that you would recommend us supporting, or certain organizations that we should be supporting.
I think educating ourselves, and please know that I'm educating myself as fast as I can here too. I feel like this is a really, like, we just don't exactly know what's going to happen. So I'm spending a lot of time with immigration attorneys and other partners across New York State. So one, I think, yes, educate yourself. Two, just again, out in your communities, if you hear concerning kind of talk, especially with regard to, otherness and possible violence or whatever, try and bring the temperature down if you can. These folks are here among us right now when we're all perfectly safe, and they have been working and paying taxes. And, if we could just get people to understand that even if they need to, if their status is no longer going to be recognized here, there's humane ways to do this. So yeah, I really just want people to remain calm. So if we could all just be agents of that, well, this is all sorted out. And then in terms of who to support, I mean, I think maybe I can work on that a little bit going forward. I am not even entirely sure what our larger role will be. I can tell you right now, our biggest role, where we are most busy in getting as many people in as we can, is in our Immigration and Citizenship Department. We are trying to get anybody whose status needs a little bit of work, who needs a form filled out and sent in, who needs whatever. If they have a deportation hearing or some other thing, we're doing everything we can to get as many people in as safe a space as possible by January 20th, which, and I think that, a lot of legal aid, immigration attorneys, we work with them. That's kind of where our head's at. I think also explaining to people in your communities, because I think a lot of refugees and even immigrants who have perfectly legal status here and are safe don't understand that going forward for the next 4 years, they're not going to be able to bring their families here. So a lot of them, I think, assume that it's really going to be business as usual and they're safe and it's all good. But I think down the road, you're going to hear a lot of people really upset that they're not able to do the reunification, the family reunification stuff that they were maybe thinking that they were going to do. So that's going to be a whole other issue down the road. I can certainly you know, kind of look into who I think is doing, you know, the most, I don't know, essential work in this space. I know we're busy. I know New York Immigration Coalition is busy. I know some other folks are busy. It's kind of all I have.
If you want to forward any groups to me, I'll distribute it to the group. I did put the New York Immigration Coalition, a link to their website in the chat
Yeah.
for this meeting.
And all the resettlement sites across New York State, all of us, I think all of us, maybe, have immigration and citizenship offices. So we're all doing as much work as fast as we can. I do think the other, you know, little fly in the ointment is there is a tremendous shortage of immigration attorneys just nationally, and that has been a struggle for years. So all of this exacerbates that.
Yeah, Shelley, one question. Are you going to keep resettling folks clear up into January, or what's your trajectory on that?
Yes, so we are going to be busier than ever for the next, what is it, 7-8 weeks? I don't know, however many weeks it is. Yes, the entire network nationally is planning probably one of its busiest quarters ever. So, yes.
Shelley, I see on your website people can make donations.
Yeah, we are a not-for-profit, and so anything that anybody wants to give would certainly be put to good use at this time with our high arrivals and all the work that we're going to be doing to you know, get this new population up and going, and also protect the folks that are here.
And you can also subscribe to the center's email updates. It'd probably be good for all of us to stay apprised. I don't see any other hands raised. Anybody have any further questions? Gail, Brett?
Yep, I have my hand up. Where do you get your funding, Shelley?
So we get our funding, we get both federal and state funding. And some of our state funding is actually federal dollars that gets passed through the state. So the federal funding is obviously in jeopardy in a lot of ways, although we are hearing there might be tiny bits of refugee resettlement that eventually picks back up and moves forward. Specifically that they might be looking for Christian populations out in the world that qualify as refugees. So there is some talk about that there would be some funding to continue forward to keep the resettlement arm of resettlement kind of happening, even while the numbers really decrease, certainly for the first 6 months of this administration, I would say. So those are federal dollars. Then there are state dollars, and there are state dollars that come directly from New York State. We have some really big contracts. We do a lot of workforce development. We have CDC contracts. Who knows what's going to happen with that when RFK takes over as a, I don't know, the health guru. But we do have programs around public health, employment, immigration and citizenship, traffic safety. We have a whole department called Office for New Americans that is from the New York State, and it comes from the Secretary of State's kind of office. So we do have robust programs here other than just resettlement. We have ESOL classes. We partner with MVCC for those. So, and we have foundation funding and other private funding that we, we've won grants and awards that we have to keep applying for. So our funding is diversified, but in terms, I mean, obviously the federal funding is a big piece.
Thank you.
Ani, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, and this may be a really foolish question, but Shelley, you talked about not having enough, immigration attorneys. So is the law so complicated that you really need a trained immigration attorney, or could, let's say, an attorney that specializes in something else be of any help?
So I think that we do have BIA accredited staff. So we have staff that aren't attorneys that have gone through training to be able to do immigration and citizenship work. They tend to do things that are fairly easy. And if there's any little complication or a blip arises, they immediately consult with an attorney. I do think that immigration law, especially as it pertains to folks seeking asylum, is pretty complicated. And, I think conservatively, they're saying one asylum case is about 80 hours of attorney work. So it's just, yes, it's complicated. I do think if you have attorneys that specialize in other things, they can certainly do some training, probably some of the same stuff our BIA accredited staff here have done, and do some of the work. But the really, I think the asylum cases are pretty tricky, and anybody can file for asylum. You don't need an attorney to do that. The problem is when it comes, years down the road and it's time for you to go before a judge and either be granted or not granted asylum. I think the statistics are staggering. Like, first of all, very few people actually meet the bar and are granted asylum over the many who, I think it's less than 20%. And then of those, the ones that don't have attorneys, it just drops off to, almost nothing. And there's a lot of strange things. I mean, there are children that go before judges without attorneys for asylum claims and things like that. So this system is very broken and very cynical. So, I highly recommend having an attorney with experience in immigration law.
Thank you.
Other questions? Wow, Shelley, thank you for being here with us, and our hearts are most certainly with you as you address the issues you're concerned with. So.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, April. I haven't seen you in a while. Yeah, I think, let's not lose hope. Let's keep working.
Well, if you are welcome here anytime, let that be said.
Thank
So
you.
if you want us to circle our group again and you have things you think we need to know, please call me and we'll get you on. So, or anyone from the center.
All right. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Well, let's end with a blessing here. I found this in the Interfaith Prayer Book, and it seems most fitting for what we've been discussing today. May peace triumph over discord here. Generous giving over avarice. Reverence over contempt. Speech with truthful words over lying utterance. May the righteous order gain the victory. Amen.
Amen.
All right, friends. Lord be with you.
And also with you.
I know.
Thank you.